It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
Bear inside the 5. Bear into the end zone. It's a touchdown.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Rob Wright the third. Just won it for BYU.
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Nate Slack, on your legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday. Man, football just keeps inching closer and closer. And I don't know about you, Mitch, but I go home and I try to analyze these videos from spring ball. And it's not always the easiest to pick out the numbers, but I do my best.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm overanalyzing any B-roll, any clips, any photos. What message are they trying to send with this clip? Oh, yeah. Like that. It's just we're in overanalyzing season. We're all just deprived of football. We just need it. I really hope, too, that BYU does what they did last year and give the Cougar Club, I think it'd be great if they give the general fan base, too, a free practice. You know, go to the stadium. And that practice last year was so light. It was, I think it was probably 45 minutes at most. But I hope they do that for the fans this year again, because I thought that was a cool moment to let fans into the stadium, see the team, because this is a highly anticipated season of Cougar football, and people want to be connected to it. And, a lot of people might not be able to go to the games, but they want to still feel part of that. And a guy that's going to be following it every step of the way with BYU football in 2026. He's part of the BYU Sports Network, good friend of the program here on Cougar Sports Saturday. He is Matt Baiamonte. He was there on Wednesday at the practice fields along with myself at the Student Athlete Building. Matt, welcome into Cougar Sports Saturday. And what do you think of day one at fall camp and that 7 to 8 minutes of observation we got?
Honestly, I think my biggest takeaway, Mitch, was not anything we saw, though. From what we saw, I did think that Enoch Watson getting a lot of run, it's just kind of interesting. And then you hear Aaron Roderick also say that he's nipping at the heels of Trayson Bourget, so that's very interesting. And then I think the most interesting thing to me was just noticing that when they were coming off the field, just how few question marks this team has. That was kind of the first time, just visually, I was like, wow, there is not a lot of unknowns with this football team. What a luxury to be in that position.
What's your biggest concern for this season? Because I agree with you. There's not a whole lot of question marks, but what would you say is your biggest concern going into the season?
Man, I don't know if concern's even the right word, because there's really truly nothing I'm concerned about. But if I had to answer your question, I would say my biggest concern is just the unknown of in-game adjustments. I think Jay Hill, he was so good at game planning. He was so good at in-game adjustments. And with a first-time defensive coordinator in Kelly Poppinga, I'm not worried about the game plan. You have Gary Anderson. I think he's going to do a fine job in that regard. And I love the potential blend of defenses in terms of, hey, what did we learn from Jay? What did we learn from Kalani? And then let's also mix in some Bronco. I think that's very exciting. It's just the in-game piece of it. Like, how quickly is he and this new defensive staff able to identify trends in game and make a quick pivot? Because that's something Jay Hill was a master at, and we haven't seen it with Kelly Poppinga. That doesn't mean he can't. I actually believe he can. But to me, that's one element of a coordinator change where you just don't know how it's all going to play out.
If you had to call your shot right now, again, we're talking with Matt Baiamonte, BYU Sports Network here on Cougar Sports Saturday, former CSS host, and always a pleasure talking with Matt. If you had to call your shot here in August, Matt, who do you think is going to be the number one receiver in terms of receiving yards this season?
Oh, my goodness. This is a very difficult question to answer. I do believe at the end of the day that this team will be heavy run. Yeah. I don't think it'll even be 50-50. I'm going to go, this is kind of a bold take, to harken back to our old days doing free and out back on CSS, Mitch. A bold take. I'm going to say it's Walker Lyons. Walker Lyons is going to lead the team in receiving yards. I like all the options. I feel the most comfortable because the run game is going to be so prominent. You're going to be play action off of that. Let's go 12 personnel, get Roger Saliapaga in there with Walker Lyons. I think Walker is a really good pass-catching option. So is Roger. It could be either of them, but I'm going to take my flag, a bold take flag on Walker Lyons.
Yeah, Carson Ryan, 620 yards last year. He's now with the Cleveland Browns. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Walker could be in that territory.
No, not at all. And look, he never had a huge role at USC. But let's not forget that this dude was highly recruited by Stanford and USC. It took BYU 3 times to get this dude. And he's got all the makings of being a true pass scheme weapon. So I think whether it's Walker or Roger, I just don't see a wide receiver being as prevalent as what we saw last year with Chase and with Parker Kingston. Both of those dudes were on the field nearly every snap, and they got a lot of targets. And I think this year's wide receiver group, although there's talent, a lot of it's unproven. And I just feel like at the end of the day, what is going to be wide open and so successful, you hammer the run game and then you play action that baby. And a lot of times I just feel like a little rollout, some dumpster Walker Lyons into the flat. I think that'll be a bread and butter play. And, yeah, I'm going to go with the tight end for sure.
So with the tight end situation, obviously Bear Bachmeier is going to be the one slinging the rock to him. We were talking about Bear earlier in the show just about how they want to run him less this year. What expectations do you have for Bear this year? With you just said that you expect BYU to be more of a run team this year, but what expectations do you have for Bear?
In the run game specifically?
Run or pass?
I mean, pass, I think there's no reason that Bear can't be over 2,500 yards and be 3-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio. That's what I would expect. I think when you have another year in the offense and you have the reigning Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, you're going to have a lights-out run game. And we can't forget, in the run game, Sione Moa is 100% back. And that's a guy who we've just kind of been waiting to break out since he had that phenomenal debut 2 years ago against Kansas State. So you got a two-headed attack at running back. You have a absolute stout offensive line. So I don't think he's going to be needed in the run game as much as he was last year. I felt like last year there was a lot of QB draws and quarterback powers, designed runs. I think this year you just take a lot of those out because Bear is going to take off at times, and that's to be expected. You call a pass. If it's there, great. If it's not, and depending on the situation, he takes off. I just don't see a need for more than 1 or 2 quarterback-designed runs a game because he's going to add another 5, 6, 7, 8 on pass plays. So I would expect that he scales that back tremendously, and you just lean on the running backs, you lean on the tight ends, and that's how this offense is going to go. I think it's just too easy, it's too simple. You start with LJ, you mix in Sione, a little bit of Bear in situations, and then build the play-action game off of that. And that, if you can stay healthy, which is always a question mark in football, but this group can stay healthy, that should be able to carry you, in my opinion, to the Big 12 championship game.
You caught up with Sione on the BYU Sports Network this week at practice. What maybe it was something that was new that you learned from your interaction with Sione that you kind of took as a little nugget that you store away maybe for the rest of the season?
Yeah, that was a great conversation. I really wanted to hear from him. So that's on my Twitter feed. We didn't call it Twitter anymore, X feed, whatever the name is these days. But I thought that the most interesting nugget to me was how forthcoming he was with the injury and how he just barely started feeling like himself a few weeks ago. And so with that context, I just thought, wow, like incredible that he was able to even make it back to being available in the Big 12 championship game last December. Didn't really have an impact, saw very limited snaps, but that was a very serious injury. And for him to say, like, I finally have cleared that mental hurdle where I can go through a grueling workout and there's nothing in the back of my mind. There's no soreness the next day. Like, I'm truly back. I thought that was a really good nugget. And if I had to add one more thing, Mitch, yeah, he was just so complimentary of Bear and how much he has developed since last year. And he's not the only one who has mentioned that. I think we've heard that a number of times. But, man, Bear looks so good. This is the time of year where we're going to talk about, grown men's bodies, which is always a little weird in football. Right?
They look good in shorts. Seeing Kato Luave in those biker shorts, it's like, whoa, he's the CEO of the biker shorts, man. He looks good in them.
100%. So it's like, he's lost 15. He's leaned out. He's put on the muscle. He's beautiful. So, I mean, that's all obvious. But then to hear from Sione and others just, hey, now I can get to the line of scrimmage. I can make a check. I've got a little more autonomy. For him to come that far, and so he's only a sophomore. It's only his second full camp, and yet he's already been given the freedom and ability to kind of make those kind of checks at the line of scrimmage. That, to me, is a really notable deal for BYU's offense.
I've got to put you on the spot, Matt. We've talked a lot about BYU's potential for this season. Do you want to give us a record prediction? How many games BYU wins this year?
I'm going to go with 10-2. I think that they're going to have one loss out of conference and one loss in the conference. That'll be enough to get them to the Big 12 championship game. They could certainly win more than that because you look at the schedule, you could very easily talk yourselves into 11-1. And honestly, I know Notre Dame's coming to Provo, but you get them at home. Yeah. You will have had some momentum. That game to me is by no means a guaranteed loss. You can very easily paint a picture that BYU wins that game. And then you look at the conference slate. If they can get by a couple of mini hurdles early, I think for sure 10-2, 11-1. Arizona will be a little tricky. And I think TCU is a game that maybe some people are sleeping on where you go on the road. What's TCU going to be like? You look at that record last year, it was okay. But then when you consider that TCU team was not that far off from being a double-digit win team, that's a tricky game as well. But anything less than 10 would really be surprising. I think there's a lot that breaks their way to where they can have another double-digit win season. And then as long as you keep your Big 12 losses to 2 or less, if you get 2 in the Big 12 play, you can still get in, I think. At 1, I think you're a shoe-in to the championship game. 3 and below, that's probably not going to be enough to get you to Dallas. But this team is talented enough. I'd be curious, Nate and Mitch, how you guys feel about this, but I kind of expect them to get there. I don't know if that's too lofty of an expectation, but they have so much returning talent. They have so much favorability in the schedule. I feel like they have to get to the Big 12 championship game if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this team should be a preseason top 10 team. I think this is a loaded team. And they're really talented. And I think that the culture of the team, the intangibles in the locker room, I think are in a positive place where I feel like they still can play a little bit us against the world mentality because they haven't won anything yet and no one is anointing them. Even though I think guys like us that follow the program closely, we see the potential and the talent and the star power there. But I'm with you. I think this is I've even kind of taken a step further. I think 11-1. For this team. That Notre Dame game is interesting when you bring that up with Provo and BYU as an underdog. We have seen in the Kalani Sitake era games like Michigan State in 2016, Wisconsin in 2018, even a couple years ago, SMU in 2024, BYU was a huge underdog. They seem to always pull off a game or two where they are a big underdog. Boise State in 2019, and they pull it off. And that's probably the only one where they are a huge underdog, and BYU is always good in those spots under Kalani.
It's well said. Yeah, I think they have made a history in the Kalani era of kind of proving the doubters wrong in specific games like that. The good thing about the Notre Dame game is it just kind of doesn't matter. I know that I hate saying that because it's such a marquee game. And I love that this game is being played in Provo. They're finally making the return game. But if you lose that game, it's no big deal. Like, you got to take care of Arizona at home. You got to find some wins on the road. And if you do that, you're going to get to where you want to get to. But, yeah, and let's also – I think with this Notre Dame team, they are so good and so heralded on the back half of their defense with safeties and defensive backs. Yeah. I want to see how they hold up against this BYU run game. I feel like this BYU run game is going to be absolutely elite. LJ, Sione, and then we just have not given enough love to the offensive line. Like Bruce Mitchell's been a stud. Kyle Safarchuk has really come on as an interior offensive lineman. Andrew Gentry, he's not coming off a devastating injury. He was healthy all last year and then got to kind of practice, and rehab's probably not the right word because he wasn't coming off an injury, but just to stay healthy a whole off season. Like I expect big things from Andrew Gentry. Was a highly recruited guy. So yeah, that game to me, I think at home, it's going to be, that's a very difficult environment. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think what a Notre Dame team in the last couple of years. I know they've played some difficult games on the road. They lost to Miami last year, but I don't consider going to Miami some crazy difficult place to go play. Like LaBelle Edwards Stadium is hard to play at, and it's just gotten better this decade. So that to me, Mitch, to your point, is very within the prediction element that you could win that game.
He's Matt Baiamonte, part of the BYU Sports Network. You'll hear his work throughout the year and help out with BYU basketball, BYU women's basketball. There's a lot of things with the BYU Sports Network. So, Matt, always appreciate the time. We'll see you at the practice fields, and let's do this again soon.
Absolutely. Always appreciate it. It just feels home, feels natural on the legacy home of the airwaves. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. That's Matt Baiamonte here on Cougar Sports Saturday. Taking a break, final time out of the show. We'll close out the program next.